So, in the midst of writing a script about the Orlando Magic and how they needed to add another offensive threat, they actually went and traded for one. The trade was for Desmond Bane. Orlando received Desmond Bane back from Memphis, and the Grizzlies received Kentavious Caldwell Pope, Cole Anthony, the 16th pick in the 2025 NBA Draft, 2026 first round pick from the Phoenix Suns, 2028 first round pick, a 2029 pick swap, and a 2030 first round pick. Let's talk about it. For the Orlando Magic, I think this was a good deal. The Magic last season ranked 29th in pace, 27th in offensive efficiency, 18th in three-point attempt rate, 27th in offensive efficiency after a made shot. Using that number just to give you an idea of how well they were in a slowed down environment, or as close to their offensive efficiency in the half court as we can get, and 30th in three-point percentage. Desmond Bane, over the last 5 years, has made 40% of his shots from the outside, and I think he's an underrated creator. I think last year you saw him continue to take some of the steps needed. In the 2023-24 season, he had a 29.6% assist rate. This past season was 23.6%, which is still pretty good. I think the Magic hit the nail on the head on what they need in terms of a floor spacer, but I do want them to continue to be creative here and try to add another player who can possibly bend the defense a little bit more. The name that I had in mind was Malik Monk from Sacramento, not only because Malik Monk can shoot the ball, but he's just a bit of a jitterbug offensively. Allows him to kind of create things, attack the basket, and he's also an underrated passer. When the Kings, traded De'Aaron Fox, you saw Monk assume more of a point guard role. Even before then, I would argue that he was their backup point guard, attacking, coming off the bench. I would have liked him there just because he gives you a little bit more of a different element. But Desmond Bane's still a good player. I think alongside a player like Jalen Suggs, you don't lose too much defensively alongside Suggs. You do upgrade the shooting. I do think they need to add another shooter. I would look for them to try to add somebody maybe in the draft who can space the floor and knock down some threes. Or they look a little bit more towards their bench. They did trade Cole Anthony in this trade. They did trade Kentavious Caldwell Pope as well. So you're kind of stuck on what options the Magic have in terms of guys who can space the floor. But they did make like weird bets in terms of acquiring second round picks, or even using a lottery pick to get some like pure shooters, right? Like Caleb Houston, that's really all he does at this stage in his game. And Jet Howard, coming out of Michigan last year, or 2 years ago, I should say, that's kind of been the thing that people thought he would be good at, was spacing the floor. So maybe this is an opportunity to take some minutes back from a young talent here, taking the minutes back from Cole Anthony and Kentavious Caldwell Pope, and maybe giving them to a Houston or a Howard here in the next couple minutes. If not, I think they're going to make a veteran move to add maybe like a veteran's minimum level shooter who can help them a little bit. Maybe someone like a Landry Shamet, who played well in New York this past season. Maybe he comes to Orlando, serves as another guard who can space the floor. I think the Magic did good. The one thing I'm also interested in here is that their cap flexibility has changed. Now that we have Franz Wagner's extension kicking in, Jalen Suggs' extension kicking in, and now Bane on the roster, Paolo Banchero is next to get paid. And that would give them several players on the roster who makes over $30 million a year. So I'm a bit concerned about what the Magic do there, and what the next steps to kind of avoid that space is of luxury tax hell, or the first apron or the second apron. I think the Magic are going to be an interesting team moving forward. But I think today, in the wake of the Boston Celtics probably taking a step back, conversations about Giannis potentially leaving Milwaukee, that Eastern Conference, that third team in the Eastern Conference is up for grabs, and I think the Magic did a good job at trying to claim a stake in it with the addition of Desmond Bane. For the Memphis Grizzlies, this is a pivot, right? This isn't them completely giving up on this generation of Grizzlies players, but it's saying we just need something different. I think Bane was a good player for them. I think he kind of fit the line of what they needed, right? He was kind of their third star, and he had several big games both in the playoffs and the regular season for them as they kind of navigated without Ja Morant over the last couple of years, as they kind of navigated with Jared Jackson kind of plateauing as a player a little bit. I think Bane was underrated for him. Cole Anthony's just like a backup point guard. I do feel like ever since Memphis took a step forward, they kind of kicked their backup point guards to the curb. We saw guys like Tyus Jones leave. We saw players like DeAnthony Melton get traded. You know, they really relied on Morant and finding someone who is just good enough to back him up. I think Cole Anthony's fine. I don't think he's anything special. I don't think he's a six starter or anything like that. He'll come in, hit some occasional baskets, an occasional offensive burst or two. But this is a fine backup point guard making fine backup point guard money. No, nothing more, nothing less. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I'm interested to see if they keep him. I don't like the fit next to Ja Morant. You do kind of want somebody a little bit more advantageous offensively, whether that's someone who can attack the basket with Ja. Ultimately, when Morant's on the floor, you kind of want that spot-up shooter who can use his gravity to his benefit. Caldwell-Pope had a rough season last year. I still think he's a fine defender. I still think in the right situation, he can still be a valuable floor spacer, but he's probably your second or third level floor spacer as opposed to your lead guy knocking down 40% of his threes on really medium value. KCP's never been like a 6, 7, 8, 9 threes a game guy. I think they should trade him. I wouldn't be shocked if they did it. They tried to look around the league and tried to find a team that wanted to get a little bit better on the wings and wanted to pay that price. I wouldn't be shocked if he stayed in Memphis either. He does kind of fit the perceived ethos of the team, the grit and grind narrative. So I would keep him there. I think ultimately the biggest winner here is Jalen Wells. Last year's all-rookie forward. Looked like an excellent defender. He shot 35% from three, was a second-round pick. I think Wells is someone who can be the biggest benefactor here of a Bane trade. I think he was someone who shocked many with his ability to just step in right away and really contribute. So I'm curious to see how the Grizzlies kind of take the step from here. They had about $6 million in cap space, 6.2. Now they're around like 4.7 if I have my math correct here. They're probably going to look towards a Jaren Jackson Jr. extension, which would make sense for both parties. But they don't really have any free agents they need to look at. Santi Aldama is a restricted free agent. I think they should retain him as well. But I think the Grizzlies are kind of also gridlocked in terms of their roster construction and trying to figure out the next steps. Getting 4 first-round picks, getting a fresh out the lottery first-round pick this year is good for them. I know this draft has had its ups and downs. It's a little bit questionable, but that allows Memphis to do what they've done best over the last 5 years, which is draft players, right? We've seen not just the Morant and the Ja selections, but Santi Aldama was a 30th pick in the draft. Desmond Bane was a late first-round pick. We just spoke about Jalen Wells. I still hold out hope for GG Jackson. Hopefully he can come back and maybe be a proper post-hype sleeper. Now that a little bit of the pressure is off of him. You have Zach Edey, who's going to be out for about 4 months. But Edey was still a fine pick, and I think he still serves a role for this Memphis team. I think restocking your assets a little bit and being able to say, okay, now we can enter some drafts with some picks and figure some things out. I think that's a good move for them. And having all those picks now allows them to kind of find the next guy if they really want to, right? I think one of the big things for Memphis was that they had a chance of trading for Jimmy Butler and they didn't do it for luxury tax concerns. So now we kind of know the level, right? So this team's going to probably make another move down the road to avoid luxury tax issues if it comes to that point. But now it's Morant, it's Jaren Jackson Jr., and now the quest for that third guy begins, whether it's Jalen Wells, whether it's GG Jackson, whether Edey takes a massive step forward, whether they find that guy. They now have some draft picks to throw around to get some cheap talent. And you have Cole Anthony, who's a smaller but tradable contract, KCP, who's a larger, a little bit more But you think about it, he has this year and then he has next year on his deal. I believe next year is a team option. So the Grizzlies should be able to get out of that relatively unscathed. I'm I'm a fan of both teams here getting what they got. I think the Magic essentially took that punt towards becoming a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. You think about them last year, they were 41 and 41, and then all of a sudden they kind of dropped off because of the injuries. Paolo missed a bunch of games. Franz missed a healthy collection of games. His brother Mo Wagner tore his ACL. Jalen Suggs played under 40 games. So there is some bounce back to the Magic here. But I also think that what we need to consider is that the Magic kind of needed a little bit more, right? For the last 2 years, they've been one of the best defenses in basketball. That mechanism, that strategy remains even with the addition of Bane. So I kind of like them taking that shot while not completely destroying their ethos here with Desmond Bane. For the Grizzlies, I'm wait and see. You know, I think they're comfortably one of the mid teams in the Western Conference, but I just don't. The glitz and glamour of the Grizzlies is off. It's the roses off the bloom, essentially. I don't know what to expect from this Memphis team. They really need Ja Morant to step back into not MVP level form, but first team NBA level form again. They need Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson Jr. just doesn't rebound the basketball, so it's just like that sticks anytime you watch him play. But like he's 40% from 3. He's an elite defender. He's a good defender who's cut down his fouls. He's really good at shot blocking against the rim. They kind of need to find that reliable wing player who can help them. And I think the Memphis Grizzlies are now in a space where maybe the next time the next good wing comes up available, they can make that trade and have a little bit more hope and success there. I like this trade for both teams. I give Orlando the slight edge, the quote-unquote victory here. But all in all, this is a good trade for both sides.